Oh,
Hi. January 26th, Joanne Ka. How are you?
yes. Good, good. Much better now. I think we're over this crazy cold or whatever was in
I
our
know.
house.
I know. That sucked. We're back now. Why are we here? For those that don't know, because we're just kind of sharing our experiences. In today's episode, you guys will see. Primarily, we talk about our weight loss, what works for us, and we're just kind of sharing the findings or anything that fails that we don't want you to do. Last episode we have been talking. So outside of weight loss, typically when people talk about weight loss, they talk about exercise and food, but we also add an additional layer to it because in order for you to do something for an extended period of time, you have to be in a good mood. You have to be a little less stressed. You have to implement things that are outside of just food and exercise. The last time we did talk about cold exposure. We basically talk about cold plunges, like the benefits and things that we try to do. And that was last time. And outside of the cold plunges, the eating right and moving. Let's call it that because not everybody exercises. Some people just
Mhm.
do light walking. There are other things like sleeping. And being exposed to light. It's light exposure. It's grounding. It's heat exposure. It's I'm forgetting something. Probably
Good.
oxygen.
Oxygen.
So those are things that we wanted to add to this list because we want to make sure that we sort of have a full picture of what is it that we sort of do. We don't really focus on those things, but we make sure that we try to implement as much of it as we can, just because there's a bunch of benefits that we're going to cover. So I'm not going to get into it in the first shot. Anything you would like to add here?
No, these are all just little things that to like Marcin said, to add to your weight loss journey, for a better mental state and overall good energy within you. As you guys know, there's everything works on electrons, plus and minuses, and we feed off it as well. We feed off from the ground, from the sun, from the heat and the cold, and the air. And it's just part of implementing everything for an overall better feeling.
You know what? I was actually walking either today or yesterday. I'm listening to a book, Beginning of Infinity, and it talks about there's a passage in the book that says something about like the what we are constructed from are basically particles that would not be in the universe if star would not explode, and it just absolutely blew my mind. I guess when you're looking at the table of elements, that's really what we consist of. We don't think of it this
Yeah.
way. Like we think of it as it's just our body, but it's like all of those things when we talk about like grounding, demagnetization, and light and whatever. Like we're constructed as like a super sophisticated machines. So all of those other things, even though we don't think about it, they're super crucial, right? And in well-being day to day. Sorry, did I take on the tangent? Um, Probably. Last time, let's say so. Let's bring it back. What's important here? Last time we talked about cold exposure. I know you mentioned heat, and we sort of hit to the end of the episode. So let's come up with a plan for this episode. In this episode, we're going to talk about four things really.
Mhm.
So you're going to kick us off with heat exposure. Talk about
Yes.
why that's good for us, and then I have three things that I wanted to add, which is I already kind of mentioned that it's the grounding, it's the light, and it's the oxygen.
Yeah.
So kick us off. Let's talk about heat a little bit, and then we'll switch gears, and I'll talk about those other three things, and I'll tell you where I sort of stumbled upon it and why I thought it was important.
Yeah. So heat exposure helps us with our metabolic health regulation. And what is metabolic health? That's basically your blood sugar, blood pressure, cholesterol. waist circumference. If you guys ever go to the doctor, they're like, okay, we're going to measure your waist and what your waist compared to your blood pressure. It all is related. And heat basically helps us in regulation of all that, and actually decrease anything that's too high. What happens is during heat exposure, these chemicals are produced in your veins that help your veins to expand. Um, and this is very important. This improvement of of vessels expanding and more a better blood flow through your veins is very important for your heart, your blood pressure, as well as sugar and anything else in your body. All right, so we had to pause because our dog went a little crazy with the kids outside. So, what I was talking about is the heat exposure helps your blood vessels expand and a better flow of blood in your body. This comes along with lower of cortisol, which we don't know. Again, cortisol is your stress hormone. It's number one heart related problem that we have here in the States, or actually now everywhere. um, how does this work? How can you go get this heat exposure? Any of you ever heard of hot yoga? So whenever I saw hot yoga, I would drive by the studio and I'd be like, what the hell are they talking about? Well, the temperature is increased to, I believe, about 90 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. And people just do yoga. So you get a chance to sweat in the hot while doing a relaxing exercise. But you don't have to go pay hundreds of dollars to do hot yoga. Enough is if you go outside when it's really hot and do some gardening, go in your garage and exercise. Do your regular exercise in the garage when it's a little warmer. These are all the things that are going to increase your blood uh, internal temperature of your blood, not too high but high enough for everything to start working a little bit more optimal. There was a study done in Finland. They followed a few people for, I believe it was 6 months or so, just to see what does exposure to sauna for 4 to 7 times a week will do for overall. Um, and I'm sorry, this was a longer study because they were able to analyze that it reduced the amount of people that died from cardiac these people from died from cardiac any death related issues, uh, a overall mortality, so any other health related issues went down over 40%, as well as dementia and Alzheimer's. So to me, like Marcia says, I strive to live longer and healthier. That's very important. So this exposure actually does a lot of good things in your body. The way that I thought about it. So how do we get our hot exposure? Marcin and I have a tendency, even when it's hot outside, we go and we pluck our weeds. It may sound silly, but we're constantly up and down, going through the weeds in sometimes 90-degree weather, humidity. Um, you can definitely feel it, but that's our yoga, hot yoga that we do.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, heat is maybe because I number one I hate heat. No, not hate, but like I prefer cold over heat, right? So, so it's one of those things. Whenever we talk about grounding, heat, cold, or whatever, it's like just pick whatever works for you. It may be all
Yeah.
five. It could be if there's two that you can implement, do that, right? If we tell you, hey, maybe you can improve your sleep, forget about everything else. It's like anything that you do to improve your health is better for you. Joanna talks about heat. For me, especially when you're talking about that, what is it, hot yoga? It sounds
Mhm.
disgusting. I don't know if I could ever do it. Push myself there. Yes, we do sometimes work around the house or whatever. We are in Florida, so it's a little warmer always. And just working around the house feels like a good exercise. So it's always remember, it's not something that you have to implement.
Hmm.
Same thing when we last week when we were talking about cold plunges. Same deal. Like, hey, do whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Um, and we exchange those ideas. Sometimes she tries something different. Sometimes I try something different, and that's just what it is. For me, as far as heat, a lot of people like to. Sometimes gyms, when you go to the gym,
Hmm.
they offer sauna and cold baths or whatever. So a lot of people like to do that. And I think that's about. I was just driving actually yesterday with one of our daughters, and we saw there was a place that offers sauna slash cryo sauna or whatever, which is basically the cold exposure, right? So
Yeah.
like we do cold exposure by going to the pool, or some people have the baths with ice cubes. But you can also go to one of those places if that's something that you would like to do. It's fast, easy, convenient. You don't have to deal with ice, cold water, or whatever. You walk in, they set you up. It's 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. You're out the door. So yeah. So do whatever works for you. Anything else on heat?
No, that's it.
Um, the other thing that we want to talk about, I mentioned three things, and it's really where it originates for me. I mentioned this in the previous episode. It was Gary Brecka. He's part of the 10x Health. If you guys have heard about Dana White, kind of started working with him, and he basically advises like celebrities in US. His name grew pretty quickly over the last 12 months, and he's actually a Florida resident. He used to work for life insurance companies, and basically the guy is estimating your longevity, right? So he can figure out down to a month, just because that's what insurance companies are doing, how long you're going to live. And part of his sort of journey, part of his history is, he was looking at things that would optimize your life and make you healthier. So he focuses on three things. And if I switch to, I think I have a picture of Gary. That's his website.
Mhm.
You can look it up, GaryBrecka.com. Here he covers the grounding, cold water, which we have talked about, and sunlight. We're missing oxygen here for whatever reason, but I wanted to show you something. When he talks about staying healthy, he sort of throws everybody. Actually, Gary, I think he does a fair. It's a fair approach, because he gives you the option of like, hey, if you're in New York and if you're always constantly in your apartment with no ability to be exposed to sunlight, or no ability to walk barefoot on the ground somewhere, there's some options for you that you can buy for your apartment and never leave the apartment and get the same results. So when you look at this, I want you to focus. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it on the screen, but I'm going to highlight a number here and read it out loud. So this number says $135,000, $489, and this is basically for the whole setup for the apartment. I
Mhm.
mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But hey, there are people with money, and if maybe you prioritize your health, maybe it's something you can look into. It's
Yeah.
definitely something we can afford, but there's always an alternative way of doing it. So in this whole set that you see here, there's three things. There's an oxygen machine, there's a red light machine, and there is the demagnetization. What is it?
Matt.
Mat,
Yeah.
right? They call it
Yeah.
PEMF or whatever, mat. And those are the three things that you can, without ever leaving your house, you can implement those things. The most expensive, like, why is it so expensive? This bed, the red light bed, is the really carries most of that price, because it comes from a company called Da Vinci Medical. It's just rebranded. Gary rebrands it under his company for 10x Health, but that machine alone is 123 on their website. So oxygen and the mat, I don't know. I guess it's another whatever 2-3K, and then it's an upcharge. But that's where the price comes from. So it's this whole thing that you're trying to cover, and there's always an alternative. So whenever you're thinking of like oxygen machine, you can basically taking in more oxygen. It's just
Mhm.
just better for you, right? So there's different ways you can do it, and I'm just gonna like cover the three, because you saw the three components, right?
Yeah.
So oxygen machine can be replaced by just breathing techniques. And
Hmm.
some people take it to another level and they get into it and like whatever. But even if you look up like Google U.S. SEAL training, like for bringing their stress level when they're under stress, when they're deployed on mission, one of the things that they do is breathing techniques. It may sound weird, but like even in a critical situation when they're like under fire, they tell them to like sit down and take 10 or 15 like deep breaths. So it's like super super important. So breathing techniques is one thing. The other thing is grounding. So that mat machine that you saw for demagnetization, believe it or not, like Joanna had a problem with it because she hates walking around barefoot. But it's one of those things that you can do where you can go outside and literally just step on the ground on your grass or whatever is available, and you can see how this could be a problem in New York where everything is just cement and metal. So that's another thing. This would replace the mat. Breathing would replace the machine, and then finally that big machine for 120,000. Guess what? Every morning you can go outside, and during the first hour of the day and the last hour, you guys probably know it. They call it a magic hour. Photographers love that light. You can basically expose yourself because there's no UV rays in the first and the last hour of the day, and you can expose yourself to light. So that red light business magic that they're discussing is basically being able to do that. Now, having a machine would be super easy, super convenient because you don't have to worry about the first hour of the day. You can sleep right through it, and then at any time you can go open the bed, jump in. It's almost like tanning, right? You can go outside and get a little nice tan for 10 minutes every day, or you can hop into the machine, and we all know it's not the healthy thing that we can do to our bodies, but you kind of get the idea. There's always like an equivalent or replacement for something that we can naturally do. This is something that we can do with machine and technology. So now I've sort of explained the what kind of Gary's preachings are, and it's really like the when Gary Brecka talks about it, it's really kind of those three things together, including heat and also including cold exposure, are sort of like a holistic approach to maintaining both physical and mental health. So it's those five things. Last episode we talked about cold exposure. Today we're talking about heat, oxygen, grounding, and
Light.
and light. So, all right. You've talked about heat a little bit.
Hmm.
I think the next one we can talk about, since you mentioned light. So the three benefits, I try to like jot down the three benefits of when he talks about light, and there's other experts talking about that as well. The red light. One benefit is it basically boosts your mood and energy levels. It's think about that cycle that we're all on, the 24-hour cycle, where first thing in the morning, when you're getting up, you want to be fully awake. A lot of people sort of kind of fight their urges. They try to stay in bed. They try not to, like, even between us, I'm different. I want to jump out of bed and like turn on all the lights, and you sort of take it easy. Like, do you like light in the morning? Maybe it has changed recently for you.
No, I like to slowly get the light up.
Yeah, yeah, right. So basically, what they're saying, the claim is that if you expose yourself to light, I mean, obviously your body reacts. It's start of your day, and the energy levels, like everything goes up. You're in a better mood, and energy goes through the roof. It supports your sleeping patterns, and this is primarily because in the morning when you get the light, you expose yourself, then you're fully awake. But on the other side, when you go to bed and it gets darker, and then your melatonin kicks in, then it helps you with light helps you with this, like, hey, it's time to sleep now, it's time to get
Yeah.
up. So it's basic function, and then it enhances vitamin D production, which we know it's crucial for us. So that's really what happens. I was also looking at, like, so since we know the benefits, it's like, but what is it really doing, sort of more on the science side without sort of uh, spelling out definitions from the book. So sunlight basically stimulates the production of serotonin, and serotonin is the feel good hormone. So that's why we feel energetic and the energy levels are going through the roofs. Um, and and serotonin is also responsible for the for regulating sleep. And I mentioned vitamin D, and what happens in the skin. It's basically good for your skin and essential for bone health. So, anything else that you would like to add to light?
Yes. So, for our premenopause and menopause ladies that are having a hard time, sometimes our cycles are off with sleeping. This light is cycle is very healthy for us as well, to get us back into the routine of when you go to sleep and when you wake up. So having exposure to the first light um, helps you actually build up this awake time in your brain, and happy to carry you through the day. And then as the sun goes down, if you can get some of that natural sun actually right in your face as the sun goes down, it helps your melatonin to kick up, and you slowly hit the cycle of going to bed. A lot of women, like I said, in premenopause or menopause state, actually enjoy this quiet time in the morning and in the afternoon to get their cycle back into rhythm.
Yeah. So before we jump onto the next category, so for light, both in the morning and at night, what is it that you do? Just kind of short. I don't want to sort of take apart all the routines, but like, what is it that you do at night? Like, what things that you do before you go to sleep? Like, are you careful with the dimming the lights, and in the morning, are you trying to expose yourself to light as soon as possible, or
So yeah, so in the morning, in the house I like to slowly get the lights up. I'm not crazy about turning on all the bulbs up right away. But what helps me is that I go out walking when it's sort of gray outside, and the light is coming up as I walk. So that's my natural way of just slow. Usually start my walking kind of slower, and then I get into this rhythm of walking. In the evening, as you know, I like our dim lights that we have throughout the house.
yeah,
And the only one that's really bright is in the kitchen. But once I clean up the kitchen, I like to have that light off,
yeah,
and keep the lights at a mellow. Even our oldest daughter likes her lights in the evening very
yeah?
low, only like a string of lights that's on, and the same with our youngest.
Yeah. So I think we overlap in the morning because, well, overlap in the morning by in the sense that we both walk in the morning, right? So I do the same thing. I get up,
Mhm.
and when I go for a walk, I mean, that's my light exposure. We can do it in the morning, so it's just sort of easier that way.
Yeah.
But and at night, same thing. Like, we have this sort of unwritten rule where we try to shut down TVs for the kids
Mhm.
so that they're not, pushing too hard right before they go to bed. That we decrease the light, and for us, I think we try to like generally just dim the light throughout the
Yeah.
house. And then even when I'm in bed, and of course everybody has tendency to like grab devices and on the phone and whatever, do some scrolling. I notice that if I tend to scroll through short form or whatever in bed, my sleep suffers.
Mhm.
So so I have to be careful with that. And what I usually do, even if I like play an episode or something on the phone, I usually try to just resort to audio. What that means is, like, if I'm, I don't know, listening to like an interview or something, I just turn it on, I flip my phone upside down, I put it on the nightstand, and I just listen to it instead. If it's an audiobook, obviously it's easier. But try not to stare at light before I go to bed. So, all right, so that's light. We've covered that. The next one, I got to tell you, with this whole demagnetization or grounding, I remember when this falls for me in this category of like this woo woo that cannot potentially, that cannot possibly work. I remember when I first heard about it, I'm like, what kind of hippie nonsense is that? So because I just didn't understand. Again, let's do it the same way as we did with light. So the benefits is, it reduces stress and promotes relaxation. It improves, again, sleep quality. and it helps a lot with reducing inflammation in your body, believe it or not. And the sort of the scientific the explanation behind it is that direct contact with earth can help reduce inflammation by allowing a transfer of electrons, which may neutralize free radicals. That was a heavy for one when I saw it. And
Yeah.
basically the way I understand it, and you can tell me how you feel about it, but it's we talk about our body. Like sometimes we talk about health and just overall well-being, but like when we look at the cell level, there's actually electric charges in our body. So
Correct.
so that
Yeah.
helps with transfer of that electricity throughout the body, and it just with by having contact with earth, you're grounding yourself and helps with the flow of the electric charges and the free radicals, like neutralizing free radicals. What are free radicals? And I'll just give you my definition from what I just kind of came across. So free radicals, I don't know if it has been proven, but I know a lot of articles, materials, books talk about radicals in terms of like we develop free radicals as we get older. The more we have, the more they damage our cells. So
Yeah.
that's how I understand it. Do you agree with that or
I,
not?
I
Or
do. I do. They come in all different shapes and forms, they attack different areas of our body. But yeah, these are all kind of bad
yeah,
guys in our
yeah,
bodies that are
yeah,
waiting to like hitch onto something and cause some more
yeah,
damage.
yeah. So like little particles that you can't see in your body that are just kind of hitting your cells, and they can actually make punctures in your cells. Think of it this way. And when you're doing grounding, those things actually slow down, and they don't. I'm just gonna say, for the lack of a better word, they don't multiply as fast. So that's why grounding is super important. Um, how do you do grounding? Do you do grounding?
So I'm horrible at grounding, but because as you know, I do not like to walk barefoot. Um, it's from being a kid. I got stung by bees walking too many times, and then as went into college, I found out that I'm highly allergic to bees, and now it constantly is this in my head that if I walk on the grass, I'm going to get stung by a bee. Um, and so it's tough for me. I usually try every springtime. I'm like, okay, at least I'll walk the dog in the backyard, barefoot, But it's so nerve wracking for me that I think it does more damage than good.
Boy, we've been developed in two different environments. You worry about bees, and I worry about dog poop after you walk the dog outside. So that would be the only reason why I wouldn't walk barefoot. But it seems like there's two types of people. Some people do not like, I don't
Mhm.
know, other people not wearing socks, or they hate walking bare feet. I know with us, it's like I don't know how all is, but like Kaya loves walking bare
Yeah,
feet. It's kind of hard to get her into socks. I'm
yeah,
the
yeah,
same way, but for you, socks are the thing, right?
yeah.
and yeah, for me it's not a problem. I actually prefer, even if it's like the other day you were laughing at me because I went to the beach and it was literally like 38 degrees and I was
Yeah.
still walking on the beach bare feet, with my yeah, barefoot, right?
Okay.
So it works for me, and I gotta tell you, if I have a period where I don't do it for a while, I get to like flu symptoms faster. So for me personally, I gotta tell you, I swear by it. Whatever it's doing, I don't even care. It's just I know it's better. So we get more opportunities maybe here. But even if if you're not close to the beach, or but you have access to either ground or grass, or then definitely something we would recommend. All right, cool. And the last category, oxygen. I mean, super fundamental. Whenever you go to the doctor, they stick the thing on your finger where they
Yeah.
measure your oxygen levels. And the three benefits, again, let's do the same thing. So it boosts overall energy and mental clarity for you. It enhances respiratory efficiency, and then it supports physical endurance and recovery. pretty like pretty boring definitions, pretty boring. But it's oxygen in your body in general is a good thing, right? I think we came across something at one point saying that didn't oxygen like almost don't quote me, but like
Mhm.
having oxygen in your body was helping with reducing like cancer cells or something.
You know what? Possible, but I don't remember
I think
really.
yeah, I think I read a study, and it was basically that like the more oxygen in your body, like think of it this way, the more oxygen in your body, the better it is. The other extended definition is like we talk about like breath work. So both breath work and exercise improve oxygen flow to your cells.
Mhm.
It boosts energy and enhanced brain function by increasing oxygen levels in your bloodstream. Very, very fundamental. Like it's just the more oxygen, the better. I know some people. I've mentioned you can do breath work. I was actually on a website. Let me switch for a second. I want to show you something here, which is I had this guy laying on the mat. You can sit down, you can lay down, you can whatever works for you. You can do it standing. It
Yeah.
takes about 5 minutes to do good breaths, and literally like you guys can look into it, but it's basically breathing through your nose, holding the breath for a little bit, and then exhaling. If you do like 10, I mentioned the U.S. SEALs. I think their recommended thing is I believe 10 breaths literally under like when they're under stress in those situations. And what they tell them to do is breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for like about a second, and then breathe out for 4 seconds. So what we tend to do with breathing, we tend to as humans breathe very shallow. Like we think we breathe normally, but we don't. We sometimes run out of breath, and we need to make sure that we extend capacity of our lungs sometimes. So basically that 4 second business, breathing in and holding and breathing out, it expands your lungs. You hold it there for a little bit and then you extend it out, and then you get those spikes of oxygen going into your brain. So that's that. um Anything else on oxygen?
Actually, yeah, I want to
Oh, hold on,
mention.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. I think I lost the train of thought. I'm sorry. So I got so into it thinking about breathing that I forgot to show you this. So you guys probably heard, or if you didn't, there's a bunch of like devices on the market, right? That you can use that would help you with sort of tracking your health. One of them is the Aura ring. I don't know if Joanna, if you heard about it,
Yeah,
but it's the ring that you wear and
on your finger. Yep.
like a BitFit or whatever, another one of those. But they actually have a good article on their website about breathing. We don't get into it as deep.
Mhm.
Like we just exercise breathing. We walk, and as we walk, we breathe. Sometimes intentionally, I try to do like breathing techniques, but I'm like I'll tell you, I'm not as good at it as I wish I could. But there's like there's actually a description of different breeding techniques on their site. You can Google it. We can include the link probably, and then you can see which one works for you best, because there's like one with where you hold the breath, one where you just kind of control the way you breathe it out. So like and there's like different names. So it gets really deep on how can you do it. Sorry, I interrupted. You wanted to mention something.
Yeah, so I just want to mention with the breathing. So I do my breathing before meditation, or if I can't fall asleep,
Mm,
I do breathing as well, because I sometimes listen to meditation before breathing, and usually it's the breathing of it's called the box breathing, where like Marston sort of said, you take in your breath, you hold it, let out your breath, you hold it, take in your breath, hold it, and you do this like 5 to 10 times. I also practice this with our kids, just to let you guys know. It really helps with reducing anxiety. So if you're having like a little panic attack or you're getting anxious,
yeah.
if you teach your kids to actually, take the breath in with them, hold it, release the breath, and just do that with them a couple of times, it will reduce their anxiety, where they can kind of start controlling their emotions, and then be able to speak actually to you of what's going on. um it's always nice when you teach your kid something and the kid comes back and says, hey, mama, today in school I kind of panicked, but I used that breathing and it helped.
Yeah.
um, so I had that experience, so I'm sharing it with you guys. Definitely sit down, no matter how old your kid is, sit down and do that with them. Anytime they come to you like anxious, nervous, or whatever, say, hey, slow down, let's try breathing. So again, breathe in, hold 5 seconds, breathe out, hold 5 seconds, and just repeat that cycle for 5 times. In the beginning, it's going to be a tough thing for both of you, but with time and practice, it definitely helps.
There's actually some science behind it. So the thing is, breathing. Why does it work so effectively? One thing is it actually helps relax your muscles. We get tense as we get stressed. We get tense. We breathe very shallow, and that causes more stress. So
Mhm.
it's like a cycle that we get into, and then we kind of
Yeah.
hyperventilate. We get nervous, and so it's like that longer breath when you're taking it in and breathing it out helps you with relaxing muscles. That's one thing. And then the other thing at the same time, because you're taking time to do it, it's actually for your hormones to go down. When somebody pisses you off, it takes 90 seconds for you to like for the counter response. So as you're doing like that's why with the US SEALs, the thing is the taking the 10 breaths, it actually takes like it takes a minute literally. So that time allows also for your hormones to interact, counter react, and then not only you're more relaxed, but the hormones are now lower, so you just don't get as
And you can
get
process the information that's
yeah,
coming. It's not
yeah,
only this reaction of, what do I do to protect myself. You actually calm down, and your brain, your logic brain kicks in.
yeah. So before we part ways, the so what did we mention? We previous episode we mentioned cold exposure. Today's episode we mentioned heat exposure. We mentioned oxygen. We mentioned ground work, and we mentioned light. So five things. That's what we typically add to our arsenal. Last time we mentioned a couple things, or maybe links, or this time I mentioned the Quora link. Just to let you guys know, you can find those links if you're watching maybe on YouTube or maybe listening on
Mhm.
Spotify. You can go into the Facebook group. You can join us there. You can either scan the code or look up the group, the Glucose Guardians Intermittent Fasting, 100 pounds journey, because that's what we're trying to do. So you can find us there. You can ask questions. You can join the group. We will be thrilled to have you. And I think that's it for today.
That's it.
All right, cool. Well, thanks very much for today, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Take care. Bye.